Welcome back, everyone. So excited. Okay, so before we start today, I do have to go over some housekeeping again because we have some folks that maybe weren't here yesterday that are joining us today. And those of you that are joining us today, newly joining us today, welcome, welcome, welcome. You are in a very special place with lots of special people. Good morning to our virtual audience. I failed in my attempts to have you turn your cameras on yesterday, but I'm not giving up. If you have a moment just to say hello, there you are. Hi, Jessica. All of our audience wants to say hi to you. Our live to hello, Alma. Hello, Jennifer, and Jennifer's friend behind her, and Amanda, and Jana, Karina. Thank you. Turn on your cameras real quick so we can say hello to you. It makes it so much more interactive. Everyone's waving if you can see them. Awesome. Okay. Okay, we had a couple of requests this morning, but I do want to bring everyone together and just take some time. You may be coming in with some heavy hearts and some feelings. You may be presenting in a way that's different from everyone else. And so if we could just take a 30 seconds of silence just to honor those that were lost yesterday in the mass shooting in Maine, I would really appreciate if we could just take a few seconds of silence to honor those that are lost. So we'll just take that time right now. Okay, thank you. And again, we know that you it may be a different kind of feeling today, and so we honor that, and we're here for you, and we're here together to get through these times. And it's hard to just jump right over to something new, but I am going to jump to our protocols. And let's start with Wi-Fi access. If you're here again, oh, actually, someone had asked, and she said she was speaking for many people. She asked if we could turn our lights off one more time, because I think she wanted to take a picture with the centerpieces. And so we will do that because I'm so proud of them. So lights, please. Now we can see where there might be some centerpieces missing. We know they're so cool. We're looking to see who took those home. Let's leave them off just for another second. Yep. All right, let's turn those lights back on. These can be made. These are, yes, sir. These were actually made in our makerspace by Jenna Picata, and I think she had a team of people helping her. Jenna Picata made them using the laser cutter and her creativity. And then we bought the bases from Amazon. So she just, I don't know, because this is not something I'm really skilled at, but they were created in the makerspace, and Jenna is here today. So we'd love for you to, she may not be in this room right now. She's probably manning a room, but she'll be around, and I'll make sure I point her out to folks because she is brilliant, and she actually has created a lot of things for our conference in the makerspace. Okay. Wi-Fi, you have access, you have the password back of your badge. We have an all-gender restroom located on the second floor, south building. There's a privacy room or nursing room right here, out those doors, right? You'll see it right there. Bathrooms are out these doors. Wave, Kate. Out those doors to the left, if you didn't know that. And then again, just real quick emergency, if we have an emergency in this space today or in our building today, we ask that you from this room evacuate using these two doors on the right, and then we're going to meet all the way in the back. Back, lot number 8. 8 is the magic number. Don't leave. As I said yesterday, we need to account for each and every one of you. We want to make sure that we know where you are and that you're safe. So make sure that you wait until we finish counting you. And oh, that's the wrong slide. Who is CPR first aid certified? Raise your hand, please. Take a look around. In case of one of those kinds of emergencies, these are the people that are going to come to your aid. You have now committed yourself. And emergency devices are located on each floor at the south end of the walkways connecting the north and south buildings. We have fire extinguishers, AEDs, and Narcan nasal spray. Okay, before I pass it over to Kalpana, if you don't mind, I'm going to have Myra come back up, our supervisor of operations, who's amazing and has done everything for this conference. She's going to share a little bit more about the games, because I don't know if you saw the prize table this morning. It's pretty cool. So she's going to share a little bit about our challenges and our games. And
thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming back to day 2, day 3 for some of you that joined us for our pre-conference. Thank you for playing in our conference challenge. I'm taking a look at those metrics today, and we see a lot of engagement, a lot of participation. So I thank you for joining us, and I hope you're having a little bit of fun with those challenges. We will close the challenge today at noon, and I will announce winners at around 1 o'clock. So stick around for that with more instructions on how to get access to your prizes. I believe that's all I'm going to share regarding the challenge. We did want to share the centerpieces with some of you. So we would love to give them away to all of you. I know there's not enough for each person, but what we thought was discuss with your table, figure out who has the closest birthday to today, and that person can take the centerpiece home. And if that person doesn't want it, they can volunteer it up.
I'd like to introduce to you Kalpana Thatte, Director of Education Preparation Program. She's going to share a little bit about her program, because we need some great teachers. We need to keep this workforce going. Yeah. So I'm going to give her the mic, and then we'll get set up over here.
Thank you, Sandhya. This is really special. Welcome, everybody, to SCCOE. So I'm going to talk very briefly. I'm not going to take too much time about EPP Scholar, or Educator Preparation Program. So it's a very special program. Under this umbrella, we have Educator Workforce Pathway, where we have several grants that people can benefit from to get their credentials in special education. Our program is called EPIC. And through EPIC, people can get their special ed credentials. We also have another program called LEAP. And that program offers credentialing program through, for administrative services credential. And all our programs are online, fully online. So people can participate from wherever they are in the state of California. You don't need to be in Santa Clara County. You could be anywhere and participate in the programs. We have several grants, not just for our Santa Clara County districts and charter school employees, but people living elsewhere as well. So we work with the state to bring you some state grants like Golden State Teacher Grant. We also have classified employees grant that Santa Clara County district and charter school classified employees can benefit from. We also have our EETDG grant through which any educator in Santa Clara County who wants to get their ECE units, and that includes people with credentials already, want to get ECE units, they can get that grant. So we have several grants, and last but not least, we also have a mental health grant through which people can get their PPSC credential, and the grant will provide a lot of funding for that. So stop by our table out there. We have flyers, we have information. Again, thank you so much for being here today. I hope you have a blast today. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Kalpana. Okay, before I introduce our amazing keynote this morning, I just want to give a shout out to Sung Park, who's been hiding in this room over here, dealing with all of the technology. So can we please give him a round of applause? Because, I mean, he's not He doesn't just do the technology. He does. He's a visionary. He's amazing. And just like Myra has touched almost every part of this conference. So just a shout out to you because you actually emerged from the room. Okay, good. So again, virtual audience, nice to see your faces. Our keynote is here. He's more important than I am. So maybe you want to turn your camera on again so he can see you. Just see you real quick.
Check.
Get some interaction there. All right, Tyson, let me introduce you real quick. Okay. So Tyson Amir is an author, he's a musician, educator, community organizer, and freedom fighter, born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. Tyson is the founder and director of the Black Literacy Collective, BLC, and Freedom Soul Media Education Initiatives, FSMEI, a consulting firm for revolutionary education. FSMEI has worked with over 125 schools, delivered more than 360 programs, and served more than 30,000 students through its groundbreaking revolutionary programming. Groundbreaking revolutionary programming, PDs and workshops, curriculum and culture community, and climate building. Tyson's first book, Black Boy Poems, was nominated by the Librarians of America for the In the Margins Social Justice Award, making it a librarian recommended text for high school students. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Tyson Amir.
Thank you. Right on. Thank you. I appreciate that. Are y'all able to, I have a lapel mic on. So in the back, we're good. You can, oh, right on. I really appreciate that. I hope you don't mind. I don't like standing behind stuff. So I would like to be right here in front of y'all. Okay, so my name is Tyson Amir, and Tyson's my first name. Amir is my last name. As was mentioned, I'm a Bay Area native. I'm from San Jose. I'm from the 408, you know what I'm saying? South Bay, representative. And that's important to me. My colleague is in this space with me. He's up here. His name is Mawad. So he's part of our FSMEI team. And as we were walking in, we were just having a little bit of conversation. And I was like, when I was coming up, Santa Clara County Office of Education was making the decisions that were impacting all the students. Well, I mean, that when we look at the power of the County Office of Education, there's power, but then there's also some limitations, right? Strongly suggest these different school districts in all these different cities do these things, but then there's autonomy when it comes to the decisions that the individual school districts make. But still, being in a space that had the power to impact so many lives, and now to be here having this conversation with you all, that's dope. It's dope. So I see that, I recognize that, and so this is an important thing. I hope not just for me, for all of us in this room, and the conversation that we're going to have, I think is going to be really, really important. So to start things off, I want to give you access to some things. So if you're all right with it, pull your phones out. Feel free to use this QR code. This is going to take you to a page on my website where a lot of resources exist. So for those of you who are online right now, my bad. For those of you who are online, I hope that you're able to see it. If you're not able to see it, the URL is fsmei.org/SCCOE, Santa Clara County Office of Education. So just my website, fsmei.org/SCCOE, and it'll take you to the same thing. So y'all have that. You can refer back to that all throughout the day. There's going to be a lot of resources that I might reference throughout our conversation. And so I just want y'all to have that off top. Okay, so we're good. Anybody else still need the QR code? All right. I got some questions for y'all before I get started. Who's in the building? Are y'all all Santa Clara County? Oh, okay, right on. See, there we go. I need to know. So who's in the building? So who is from Santa Clara County? Can I get show of hands? All right, so then y'all can just start yelling stuff out. Like what schools and what districts are represented? Okay, so you're not Santa Clara County. It's all right, but I got you. So I'm gonna make a note. I'm gonna make a note that we got Stockton in the building. Okay, so Santa Clara County Office of Education folks. I mean Santa Clara County folks. Who's in the building? Come on, let me All right, I heard Alum Rock, I heard Palo Alto, I heard what else? All right, so East Side is in here, Santa Clara, what else? San Joaquin. Is San Jose Unified in the building? Who else? Richmond. Okay, all right, so then we got some East Bay, we got some North Bay. What else we got? Stanislaus. All right, so everybody outside, we got some folks outside of Santa Clara County saying stuff. Who else? Who else we got? Campbell, Monterey County, Riverside. Oh, so we got some Southern California up here? Oh, LA? LA? Okay, okay. Oh, my bad. San Diego, Officer Ed, Hope Infant Family. Where's Hope from? That's San Diego. Oh, okay. So they're saying that's who they are. All right. Online Riverside County. Okay, for sure. That's what's up. That's what's up. Sacramento's in here too? Okay. Can y'all still? All right. Ooh, okay. Let me get the microphone just in case to make it a little bit easier.
Test.
All right. Thank you very much. So cool. I'm gonna take this one off. All right. So that's what's up. I really appreciate you all sharing that with me because I like to know who's in the building and who's a part of the conversation. So now let me introduce myself a little bit more. This is what we're going to be talking about: radical equity versus colonial equity. I hope when you saw this, you were like, what's that about? You feel me? Like, what's dude gonna be talking about? Because we really gonna talk. Radical equity versus colonial equity. To give myself a credential in this conversation, which I don't think is necessary, but I'm going to do it. Take a look at this picture. This is me. This is my family. This is on my father's side of my family. So my name is Tyson Amir. Amir is not the name that was assigned to my family. I changed my last name legally when I was 18 because I knew of the history behind where my last name came from. It came from a plantation in the state of Alabama. So a man who believed he had the right to own my ancestors, put a name on my family. That information was passed down generation after generation after generation. When it got to me,
super expensive,
when I had the legal right, using a colonial system, you feel me? I had to wait to a certain age to say, I don't want that name on me anymore. So when I had the legal right to change it, I changed it. And that was at the age of 18. This grave site that I'm next to, these are the matriarch and the patriarch on my father's side of the family. And we go back to the late 1700s, early 1800s in the state of Georgia. I have ancestors that were forcibly enslaved. So when I talk about colonial, when I talk about institutional, when I talk about systemic, I represent a manifestation of that reality on a molecular level. So when I'm talking about radical equity versus colonial equity, we're going to go deep. And this is stuff that is not in any type of curriculum that we have in front of our students right now. In some states, I mean, everybody here that I heard, we're here in the state of California, but in some states in this union, the very history that I'm showing in front of you, which is my family history, this is no fairy tale that I'm making up, this type of stuff will be outlawed. Because some people might feel a certain type of way about the fact that I come from this historical tradition. And then I'm gonna give a little alley-oop for the workshop that we'll be having a little bit later. How can you be culturally relevant when you're afraid of the communities and the cultures of the people who are coming into your classrooms? You feel me? Like this is just my story. I can't be me authentically. In a learning community, I can't bring what I have to offer. I can't bring my full self. I gotta dress it down in order to fit somebody else's preference to make somebody, nah, fam, we ain't doing that. So that's why we're talking about radical equity versus colonial equity. There's a difference. And that difference is harmful. That difference is traumatic. When we're using certain words that are supposed to equate to a specific meaning, but we doing this other thing over here for certain people's preference or for certain people's comfortability. No. Let's deal with the truth. Let's deal with the real. So if you all are not afraid of dealing with the real, we're gonna have us a good conversation this morning. But if you might be afraid of dealing with the real, it might be a struggle. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna be real with you about that. It might be a little challenging. So how do we feel about that? How many folks, by show of hands, are ready to deal with the real? Okay, we got a lot of hands up. Some of y'all may have hesitated of putting your hand up, but you might be ready. We gonna see. Okay. Y'all ready to get started then? That's all right? Okay. So this is me. This is what I'm bringing in. This is my credential for this conversation. And this don't come from no university. This doesn't come with a clear credential. This doesn't come through some induction program. It doesn't come through any of that. This comes through real lived experience. And I'm a proud inheritor of this tradition. Let's go. Reminding you of what we're talking about, just so you know. We about to jump off into the deep end. Look at what it says on the screen. Radical equity is not a negotiation. It's not a negotiation. Hypothetical example. If I walk into a space and I encounter an individual, and that individual brings some type of physical harm to me, if we go through some justice-based process and I say, this is what I need for that harm to be repaired, it's not a negotiation, fam. You caused the harm. I'm telling you what I need. You don't get, well, you know, I hear you, but I can only do, you feel me? I only got my capacity, my budget. It's not a negotiation. We jumping into the deep end if we really want to have conversations about equity, about inclusion. It ain't that, fam. It's not a negotiation. If we want to do it in an authentic, sincere way. If we don't, let's just tell the truth. I'm a truth teller. So that's why the tone and the way that we're going to engage in this conversation is going to be different. I am a truth teller. So if we don't want to do that, it's okay. Let's be honest. Let's not say equity. Let's say we want to do some negotiated surface type. It'll make me feel better about what has happened, but it's not really addressing the root causes. That's more of what I'm in favor of doing right now, as opposed to this other thing. Let's be honest. But if we have people in here who are brave enough to say, we want to be radical, we want to do the right thing by people who have been harmed, or just to not repeat the same mistakes that we've done before in the past, we want to do the right thing, we're going to be bold, we're going to be brave, we're going to stand up. Okay, then let's go. It's not a negotiation. And I mean, y'all, okay, I'm gonna stop real quick just to give you another disclaimer, because the doors are open, you know what I'm saying, on the side. We haven't even gotten into the real content yet. This is just, I'm warming up. And it's already heavy. I'm telling you, it's already heavy. It's gonna get heavier. And I'm gonna tell you this already too. For any of you who represent learning communities, who are sincere in trying to do this work, if you would like to partner, your boy is here. I'm here. I'll tell you more about the work that I'm doing with communities, with schools, with school districts, and what those partnerships look like. But like, I care about this stuff. I'm sure you care about this as well. But the only way that we do this successfully is to do it together. I'm here for that, fam. I really am. So, okay. I just want to make sure that y'all know that. Let's go. So ain't nobody run for the door yet. All right, we gonna go. Santa Clara County Office of Education, y'all, you know what you asked me to do. I'm going to do it. All right, here we go. Let's go. Let's look at it. The colonization of equity. Is anybody in here a DEI person for your school or for your school district? Don't be afraid if you are, for real, and don't be shy. Let me see people raise their hands if that's what they represent. All right, well, some of you might know DEI folks in your districts or in your communities. Let's look at what this says. Chief Diversity Officer Statistics by Race and Gender. 76.1% of DEI chief diversity held by white folks. That's not to say that it's problematic, because if you are in a position of power and you're surrounded by the right people, you can do some amazing things. But if you are in a position of power and you're not surrounded by the right people and you don't have the proper historical, social, cultural foundation to truly do what needs to be done in that position, then it's going to be problematic. So I'm assuming a significant portion of that 76.1% falls in that latter category of not having the right foundation, social, cultural, historical understanding, so on and so forth, which means that it is problematic. But there are some other folks who are doing some dope stuff with that power or with that position. Then 7.8%, and I personally do not like the word Hispanic, but you're going to see that in a whole bunch of stuff, right? Hispanic or Latino. Asian, 7.7%. Unknown, 3.9%. Black or African American, 3.8%. And then we got American Indian and Alaskan Native, 0.7%. And then they give you a breakdown of the financial reality of that position, who's being paid what, the gender pay gap, and all of that. Colonization of equity. Radical equity is one thing. Colonial equity is something else. This is how we begin to see what colonial equity looks like. Imagine you got people who are responsible for creating a problem in a specific geographic region. Then those people give themselves the authority to say, this is how we want to solve this problem in this geographical region, without having an understanding of the people, the culture, whatever, in that geographical locale. It don't make sense. But this is what we do time and 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 time again. This is what we do here. Let's go. I talked a lot already. I'm gonna pause for a second. I want to get some information from you all. So pull out your phones. There are about 7 or 8 questions on this form right here. I want us to deal with, because we're talking about, you know what I'm saying, later we're going to talk about cultural relevancy, authentic cultural relevancy. I want this to be as relevant as possible to your experience. We need some information. Is the QR code working? Is it taking you to a Google form? Okay. Feel free. Just put your answers down on that. And if it's not working for you, maybe somebody else next to you, you can, after they finish it, you can do it as well through their phone if they're kind enough to share with you. Okay. All right, we're getting data in real time right here. And as you're going through the form, make sure You're paying attention to how the question is set up. Some questions are speaking about school district. Some questions are speaking about school. So depending on what your position is within your learning community, try to answer based on that. Lisa, on Zoom, you're saying we're hearing conversations in the background. Oh, okay, my bad. Oh, we'll get it. We'll get it to them a little bit after. We'll give. Oh, dang, y'all moving fast. We already got 120 responses. I appreciate that. We're moving. Ooh, look at this one. Look at this one. All right, let's go. Let's jump into it. So as people are still finishing up what they have, and then we'll make sure that the folks on Zoom get access to this as well. The first question, so for our folks on Zoom, I hope you can see what's on the screen. If not, I'm just going to read it out. Okay, right on. We got a question. Okay, I appreciate that. There you go. Yeah. There we go. So the community is saying, I appreciate that. All right. So we got some folks. We got a pretty loud contingent of the community that says, if you don't know, your answer needs to be no. All right. I respect that. I'll take that. But I'm also, next time we do this, I'll add a don't know piece to the survey. I appreciate that. Okay. So let's jump into it right now. So our first question says this: does your school district have a policy that speaks to equity? As of now, we're at 147 responses. And as I said, like our folks on Zoom, my apologies, we're not trying to leave y'all out of the game. Oh, they got it now. Oh, wait a minute. Let's just do the quick refresh to see what we got going on then. We still at 148, but you know what I'm saying? If they're gonna be there, they're gonna be there. Okay. So with 148 responses right now, we have 80% saying our school district has a policy that speaks to equity, and then we have about 20% saying no. Okay. Remember, the backdrop to this part is the colonization of equity. Let's go to the next one. Does your school district have a policy that deals with anti-Blackness? Let's define that. So to give an example that I know it from Santa Clara County, I do a lot of work with several school districts here in Santa Clara County, specifically in San Jose. Some of you represent districts that I work with. In one district, I'm gonna mention them because they're gonna come back a little bit later on. Oak Grove School District. They're a K-8 school district. Is anybody in here from Oak Grove School District? Right on. Okay. Welcome. That's all right. No. It's okay. Like, don't feel bad. Like, Oak Grove School District is actually gonna get some proper shine a little bit later on because of something that they decided to do that's in alignment with the idea of radical equity. So, you know what I'm saying? You might want to pop your collar or, you know what I'm saying, pull your lanyard up in the air or something, right? But anyway, okay. Right on. All right, so Oak Grove School District. I do a program there. They asked for an affinity-based program. We have a whole bunch of different types of programs that we offer, but we're like, of course, we got a program for students at Oak Grove School District. At the middle schools, they have 3 middle schools: Burnell, Herman, and Davis. Okay, so we brought our Black program there. Peep the name, Black program. The acronym is incredible. I came up with it. But it's not incredible because it is, but also it's an incredible acronym. All right, so Black stands for Building Leaders and Activists with Collective Knowledge. Ain't that kind of, you feel me? Ain't that kind of cool? All right, I'm gonna give it to you one more time. So it stands for Building Leaders and Activists with Collective Knowledge. That's the Black program. So we brought the Black program there. We've been doing it for 3.5 years. This is because we started in January of 2021. Okay, so last year though, because of COVID, was the first year that contractors such as myself were able to be back on campus in person. So they asked me, check in with the students, what's going on, you know what I'm saying? Like what their experience has been like as Black students on these different campuses, because since students have been back from COVID, there's been an increase in racially offensive and insensitive language, especially the N-word and a whole bunch of other things being said, okay? So when the question is asking, does your school district have a policy that deals with anti-Blackness? When students who are Black or students who are descendants or of African ancestry or part of the African diaspora are being affected by things that are impacting them negatively because of their cultural, ethnic, national, I don't like to use racial, but racial background, that's what we're talking about when we're saying anti-Blackness. So based on the responses, we're up to 155 now. Overwhelming majority of you represent school districts that do not have a policy that deals with anti-Blackness. Okay. I'm gonna give a quick little historical piece. No, matter of fact, I'm gonna give a quick little historical quiz. All right. So if we're talking about, all right, we got the flag up here for the United States of America, okay? So we'll use the context of the United States of America. So if we're talking about the history of the United States of America, so that's the colonial period, and then that goes into the constitutional period, which we're still in to this day. When did Black people first come to what eventually is going to become the United States of America? Anybody? Okay. Who was that? 1619. So some of you have heard of the 1619 project and all of that. So 1619, does anybody know where Black people were brought in 1619? Okay. My man holding it down. Okay, so 1619 in Jamestown. Does anybody know what people, what Native and Indigenous people are the original owners of that colony? Okay. Where y'all from? This is Alum Rock? Okay. Shepherd Middle School. All right, for sure. So I was actually on a call yesterday with a DEI person that represents Alum Rock Unified, and we're getting ready to hopefully put together a contract for a partnership working on ethnic study stuff. So y'all represent really tough for Alum Rock right now. I appreciate that. I was actually a student in Alum Rock when I was in elementary. So that's cool. Okay, so just to make sure that everybody knows. So 1619, Jamestown. But it's important for us to recognize the fact that that was a colony. There were Native and Indigenous people, that was their homeland, their home territory, and that territory was taken away from them. But the first time Black people were brought to the colony that eventually becomes the United States of America was in 1619. Black people had been here before, but then we got to talk about French colonies. We got to talk about Spanish colonies and Portuguese colonies, so on and so forth. But in the context of the British or the English, 1619, Jamestown. It is 2023. 400 plus years later. And y'all are telling me that in the 21st century, a problem that goes back 400 years, schools are not dealing with anti-Blackness? $400 years, man. 4 centuries. It's been a problem for 4 centuries. And in our schools where there are kids, children, adults who have the ability to perceive the reality around them are not putting things in place in a society that still practices racism, prejudice, discrimination, and weaponizes that through its various institutions. Institutions such as schools are not saying this is important enough for us to do something about to protect kids. And I didn't make this up. And I didn't do this to trick y'all. I said, let's make this as relevant as possible. Radical equity is one thing. Colonial equity is something else. This is what colonial equity looks like. And look at this number, it's getting smaller and smaller. We're almost at 90%, y'all. We're almost at 90% of the districts that y'all represent do not have a policy about anti-Blackness. And this is something that goes back 400 years. It's not like this is a problem that started yesterday or last week. Sometimes if that's the case, it makes sense. Now we don't have that because this is new. This ain't new. Ain't nothing new about this. And ain't nothing new about not doing something about it. All right, let's go. Bless you. There we go. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So sometimes, and that is also a historical tradition, right? We can put something on a sheet of paper, but we don't implement it. And we don't implement it with integrity because it impacts a specific community. Let's go. Next question. Does your school district have a policy that confronts racist words, actions, and behaviors? So on this one, we got 155 responses. More than half, where we at? We're at almost 65%. We got yes, and then we got almost 40% no. Okay, that's what's up. So policies that address words, racist words, actions, and behaviors. Okay, now let's go a little bit further. One more time, what happened? Is it written down? Is there something? Like then? Okay, all right. Now the next one. Does your school district have a policy that protects any other community of students? 75% yes, 25% no. Okay. So out of those 75%, I'm curious, what are some other communities in the school districts or the learning communities that you all represent that are protected? Let me know. Multilingual learners, I heard LGBTQIA+. What else? Students with disabilities. Anybody else? Low income. All right. Anybody else? Okay. Minorities. So like a people of color, generalized. All right. So the reason why this question I think is very important is institutions have the capacity or the capability to create some type of policy or do some type of systemic or institutional shift to protect communities, but decisions are made about what communities are protected and what communities are not protected as much. Let's continue. Does your school have a policy that deals with anti-Blackness and or confronts racist words, actions, and behaviors? So this is school. So some of you might work district level. Some of you might be working at a specific school site. So here, about 70% no, about 30% yes. All right, that's telling. Let's continue. Is there a clear process, procedure in place in your learning community for responding to an anti-Black or racist incident? So I don't know if your question was about this, when you said we don't know, or some of the responses you're like, we don't know. Again, this is not an old problem, 400 plus years. And so agents is not really a clear process or procedure how to deal with this. I'm gonna give you an example of something that I just encountered a few weeks ago with one of my district partners. And this is not to say that this district is in the wrong for what happened, but this was an incident that was shared with me by a student who's in one of our programs. She's in the Black program. So we're out in Dublin Unified School District, and they're really trying to take this work very serious to create change. So in our Black program session, I'm asking students, checking in, what's going on? How's it been so far? And, people are sharing things. And this one student, she says, I want to tell you about what happened to me. I'm like, okay, what happened? She said, I was coming to school. I got to school late, so I was in the office. You know what I'm saying? Like she was getting her little tardy paper or whatever she needed to get. And she was like, this man comes in to the office and he walks right up to me and he starts screaming in my face. He's like, "Are you whoever?" You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna kill you. Like I'm not making this up. This girl who's in high school, an adult from off the street, comes into the office. So there's other staff members present. He's up in her face saying all this stuff because he thought she was somebody else. So a little bit of backstory. So his daughter had a confrontation with this other student, a Black girl, and I guess he felt he needed to exact some justice. And so he comes up to the campus, and the first girl he sees, he thinks is this other girl. So he's in her face saying all this, and he threatens her life. "I will kill you." There's staff members there. So I ask her, I'm like, did any of the adults intervene? She's like, "Nah, not really. You know, they just eventually walked me outside the office and then escorted me to my class." I'm like, "Did they contact your family? What happened to the adult? Did they ban him from ever coming back to the school? What happened?" And I was told there's still some investigative process going on, but it's been almost a month since the original incident and nothing has really happened. And so I've talked to district leadership, I've talked to school site leadership, and they've assured me that they're trying to move with more urgency to resolve the issue. What was the process? You know what I'm saying? Like this you're just gonna allow an adult to threaten the life of a minor, and you don't move with some type of urgency, expediency, like something needs to be done about that. And you know who the adult is because you know the adult's students, and nothing has happened to him. This type of stuff happens far too often when it comes to Black students, sometimes other students of color, and it just gets brushed aside. We didn't know what to do. But if we saw some other student that represents some other protected community, we're gonna run to stop and intervene. But sometimes when it comes to Black kids, we don't know what to do. Colonial equity. Let's continue. Next one. Do you have affinity programming for Black students in your learning community that are made available during the school day? That's a very important question, part of the question. During the school day, we got 149 responses there. The majority of them are no. No affinity programming for Black students who are experiencing very Black specific problems in school and in the community that surrounds the school. Let's continue. Is your learning community in the process of creating policies and procedures that deal with racism and anti-Blackness? 65% no, 34.7% yes. Okay. I mean, it is what it is. The situation is what it is. The situation also being what it is doesn't mean that it cannot be changed in the present, moving into the future. Beginning, if we got people who are not afraid, radical, bold, brave, we can make something happen. But this is what it looks like. And when I was saying in the very beginning, radical equity versus colonial equity, this is what colonial equity looks like on a daily basis. Problems that we know exist, we're not doing nothing about, or we're doing very little about. Or we think we've done something about it that's on the surface level. We got some paperwork, we got some policy, but we're not really implementing that with fidelity, so it's not having the systemic, cultural, social impact that it's supposed to be having. But we're like, well, we got that, or we did that. We tried to do that last year. 400 years, you think you're gonna fix this in 1 year? You think you're gonna fix this in 1 semester? For real, come on now, let's be real. If we wanna tell the truth, we're gonna be real about it, but if not, we're gonna keep playing with the game. Okay. Y'all ready to go back into the slides? It's cool. How was this for you? Is all right? We got some information, so we're firmly rooted in the context. Okay, let's go. All right, language of the institution. We recognize a lot of this stuff, right? We got any other words on here? No. Okay, that's everything. Let me bring that back. All right. So this is language of the institution. There's some other words that we can put up there. Almost every year we got some new thing that gets brought into it. Oh, and just to give you a little bit more background. So I taught for a number of years. I still have a clear credential in social studies, you know what I'm saying? So I taught in middle schools, I taught in high schools, I taught in juvenile facilities, jails, prisons, all of that. You know what I'm saying? Like the school thing, I feel I know the school thing very well. And now I'm still involved in the school thing, but as a contractor through a company. And that's an interesting experience as well. But yeah, I've been to so many professional developments where we doing this now. We talking about this now. And we got to get trained on this part. And now we got to do restorative practices. Okay, all right, let's do it. Are we really going to do it though? Are we just going, all right. Anyway, we get this. Language of the colonial institution. Now, who are we speaking about when we use words like opportunity, gap, underserved, equality, inclusion, and equity? Because again, like the neighborhood I come from, for those of you who know San Jose, I'm from the east side. I'm from Story and Capitol. The neighborhood I come from, you got to say what you mean. Like don't play around and try to talk a different way or be like this in front of these folks and then be different over here. Say what you mean. So what are we really saying, or what do we really mean when these things are being said? Who are we talking about? Black students, students of color, some folks have said minority, okay? Students with disabilities. So we know who we're talking about, but we use this other really colorful language in order to refer to those students like as euphemisms, okay? Let's continue. So these are some of the folks that we're really talking about. We know. All right. So then what comes to mind for us when we begin to think about these groups? What stereotypes are placed on these groups, especially Black, Latino, other students of color? Go ahead, let me know. What are some of those perceptions of Black? Go ahead, throw them out there. Let's go. Go ahead, keep going. Okay. Okay. All of that. This is an example that I got from a student just the other day. What is today? Today's Thursday. So I was at this school on Tuesday. This was in Fremont Unified at a high school. The student, he was like, I got racially profiled in class. I said, okay, tell me about it. He said, I was sitting in class and the teacher came up to me without any prompt, said, do you have both parents at your home? And he's like, the student was, are you talking to me? He's like, yeah, are both your parents in the home? He was like, yeah, I have both parents in my home. Are they both working? And he was like, what's that got to do? You know what I'm saying? Yes, they both work. And then the teacher was like, are you sure that they both work? He was like, yeah. And then, kind of just left off the conversation after that. But then the student later on goes to some adults on campus, tells them about the situation, and there's apparently some investigation going on into that teacher. Like, come on, man, what's that got to do with it? All right, some people, maybe they got two parents in their home. Maybe they got one parent in the home. Maybe they don't have a parent. They got a caregiver. They got what does that matter? But when it comes to a Black body being in the classroom, there's a whole other narrative associated with that. When it comes to a body that is American Indian or indigenous, there's a whole other narrative. Latino, there's a whole other narrative that gets added to that. This is problematic. So where did they come from? Because they certainly didn't come from those communities, fam. So this is where we start getting into how we shift from colonial to radical equity. Where did these stereotypes come from? So everything that was just being thrown out about Black folks, lazy, ignorant, gang members. When I was coming up, for those of you who are from here, you might remember there was legislation that was passed in California called Proposition 21. I remember that, fam. I grew up in that generation where they said if there are 3 black kids walking down the street, y'all are automatically a gang. What? What? That was me. That was in the 90s. I'm walking streets. Oh, that's 3 of them. Folks is getting arrested, getting gang enhancements putting on them for doing nothing. Where did these stereotypes come from? Because they didn't take a poll of the black community and say, what do you want other communities to know about black folks? Give us your top 10 list. It didn't come that way. It came from elsewhere. But we're still operating off of that misinformation, and it's problematic when it comes to schools. So let's go. This is Huey P. Newton. We're in the month of October. The Black Panther Party was founded on October 15th, 1966. The Black Panther Party is Bay Area history, it's California history, it's US history, it's world history. So Huey P. Newton, co-founder of the Black Panther Party, said, I do not expect the white media to create positive black male images. And this image of Huey right here should not be alarming to you all, but I'm sure it is unsettling to some folks in this room. At the time this picture was taken in the state of California, it was legal to openly carry a weapon. Huey wasn't violating any law. But the state of California, immediately after the founding of the Black Panther Party, changed gun laws in the state of California in order to take guns out of the hands of black folks who were not using it to shoot each other. They were using it in order to intimidate police to stop brutalizing black people in black communities throughout the state of California. I don't know if you know that history, but it's California history. It's a lesson that should be taught in government, that should be taught in civics, that should be taught in any California history, any US history. This happened right here. October 15th, 1966. Do you know when the gun law was changed in the state of California? Anybody? Alum Rock.
This is say 68.
You close, you overestimated. So let's peep the timeline, y'all. October 15th, 1966, Black Panther Party is formed. They begin to operate off of their 7th point in their 10-point platform and program, which is we want an immediate end to police brutality and the murder of black people. That's what the 7th point of the 10-point platform says. So we can talk about it or we can do something about it. The Bay Area has a real strong culture of we don't talk, we do. You know what I'm saying? We move. You're going to see it in the way that we act. So they got active. They said, in order to stop police brutality, we're going to put ourselves out there. So they started to patrol the police in Oakland, specifically West Oakland. Police cruisers driving down the street, there'd be a Black Panther car following them. Where y'all going? Police pop off on the block. Black Panthers are out there, and it's legal. I got my gun on my hip. I got my shotgun on my chest. You see, I'm far enough away where I'm not interfering with what you're doing, but you know that there are people here who are watching you and they are armed. You know what the response was from OPD? Police brutality almost magically disappeared. So October to November to December of 1966, going into January of 1967, February, March, April of 1967, a California state representative in Piedmont, California. I don't know how many of y'all know Oakland, but if you know Oakland, there's a little sliver carved out of Oakland. That is not Oakland, it's called Piedmont. A man by the name of Don Mulford. I'm forgetting his first name is either Don, Dan, or it might even be something else, but his last name is Mulford. So Representative Mulford drafts a bill that goes to the state government. It's a gun law, gun control law. You know who signed off on the gun control law? Ronald Reagan, all the Democrats, all the Republicans, and another group of people who somehow, anytime people want to ask for gun control now, always stand up to defend, you cannot pry these guns from our hands. Who you think they were? The only time the NRA, the Democrats and the Republicans signed off on gun control was when the Black Panther Party was using guns legally to force police to stop brutalizing black people. This was in April of 1967. The Black Panther Party hadn't even existed for 6 months yet. The law became official in the state of California, July 1967. Black Panthers went on the street for a year before the gun law changed. We don't teach that? Okay. Y'all got it right now. How many of y'all knew that before I just said what I said? We got a couple hands that went up. So the majority of you learned some new stuff. That's what's up. We're going to learn some new stuff together. And it didn't hurt you to learn it. You survived it. And it may even have like broadened your understanding of things like, dang, I didn't know that. That's crazy. What? Ooh, I want to investigate some more. Our students, they have the same response. All right, let's continue. White media, in Huey's quote, can be substituted for every other institution in this country. Let's go through the exercise. I don't expect the education system to create positive Black images. We're going to drop male from it. I don't expect the health system to create positive Black images. I don't expect the judicial legal system to create positive Black images. I don't expect the economic system to create positive Black images. I don't expect the political system to create positive Black images. Is it true? In each one of those institutions or systems, aren't there a major amount of negative stereotypes for Black folks and other communities as well? Huey was telling the truth, off top, telling the truth. And so we for sure deal with this in our system of education. And then Huey also said this, Huey was such a genius, but he gets disrespected so much by our institution for a variety of reasons, but he was a genius. He was a leader. He was so powerful, but his mind was so sharp. Look at this analysis. He says, power is the ability to define phenomena and make it act in a desired manner. If you can define it, you can control it. You can shape how we look at it. Language is so important. The way we perceive these things is so important. That's why we talk so much about these stereotypes that come from these systems, especially in the system of education, because it influences the way that we see reality. We're all looking at the same thing, but we don't all see it the same way. It's all right, you good? Y'all need a napkin at the table? The water fell over? It's cool, it's cool. Appreciate y'all. I hope everybody's good though back there, that it didn't get on nobody's technology. So then let's go to this next part. Who gets to define the terms that shape and influence the culture and institutions in our society? Okay. Well, let's go. So when we think about definition and defining, some of us will think about dictionaries, right? There might be other places that we go, but let's use the historical example of dictionaries. So we have Charles and George Merriam, and we have Mr. Noah Webster. It's about to get fun. Y'all ready? For real, y'all ready? Okay, let's go, let's go. We're gonna focus on Mr. Noah Webster for a second. Boom. This was a letter that Mr. Webster wrote to a man by the name of Mr. Beeman. Mr. Beeman was a Black man. He contacts Noah Webster and he's like, where can I find examples of positive Black experiences or positive examples of Black history? This is Mr. Webster's response. We'll just go into the underlying part. I would remark that of the woolly-haired Africans who constitute the principal part of the inhabitants of Africa, there is no history. There can be none. That race has remained in barbarism from the first ages of the world. Their country has never been explored very fully by civilized men. Who are the civilized men? I don't know, but apparently no one knows. All right. And the late efforts of travelers to penetrate to the sources of the Niger have not been very successful. Of the nations inhabiting the northern portions of Africa, who are of a different origin, viz. The Egyptians, Carthaginians, and Numidians, I suppose you will find the best accounts in some encyclopedias under the words Copt, Egypt, Carthage, and Numidia. Add also Moors. So he's saying of dark skin, like melanated African people, nothing. There's no history. There's no value. Nothing really came from them. This is Mr. Noah Webster, who's responsible for what we have as an institution, the dictionary, the American English dictionary. Let's go a little bit deeper into him. You know what I'm saying? So he did more than dictionaries. Y'all know he created textbooks? Did you know that? For real. Let's look at his history of the United States. Hindus, the Hindu variety comprehends the inhabitants of the southern parts of Asia and of the Isles south of Asia. Their bodies are slender, their hair straight and black, the nose aquiline. In the northern parts of India, the color of the skin is olive, but in the southern parts, quite black. The female Hindus are wrinkled at 30 years of age. These people are cowardly and effeminate. This was taught in school. Let's continue. Negroes, the Negroes. The inhabitants of the interior of Africa are black with smooth, soft skin. The hair is short and woolly. The eyes of a deep hazel, the nose flat and short, the lips thick and timid, and the teeth of an ivory whiteness. The body of the Negroes is generally well formed and of full size, but the legs are often bent outwards and the heels project farther than that of Europeans. I take offense to this because I'm bow-legged, you feel me? So for black folks that know, my joints bend outward a little bit, but aside from that, I mean, come on, like, and then look, I read the whole book. This is the only time black people were mentioned in this book. In the history of the United States by Noah Webster in 1832, black people have been here since 1619, 200 plus years, you feel me? And this is the only mention of black people. Some of our students have that same experience today in their classes when black folks, we just talk about Dr. King. We hear something about Harriet Tubman. Maybe we do something about Ruby Bridges, or it's just a paragraph in the textbook, and then we just move on to something else. It's a historical tradition. So that if y'all want, you know what I'm saying, you can go into other parts of the history of the United States where he talks about other groups, but we're going to skip on from there. The word racism was added to the Merriam-Webster's dictionary in 1939. Mr. Noah Webster, whose view of black people we've been able to demonstrate. The first time that word was added to the dictionary was 1939. And then we got a question, what was the definition of it? Racism, poor treatment or violence against people because of their race, the belief that some races of people are better than others. That's not racism, but you know what I'm saying? That's what they put in the dictionary. Just because it's in the dictionary doesn't mean that's what it is. Power is the ability to define phenomena and make it act in a desired manner. That's what Huey said. Pac said that too. If anybody knows that song Changes, you know what I'm saying? But let's continue. So then, just to not focus on the Webster Dictionary, we got the Oxford English Dictionary, like the apex of the pinnacle of what English language is supposed to be. So this is James A.H. Murray. He's known as like the architect of what became the Oxford. Let's give another historical example. So James Murray and his colleagues, when they had an opportunity to add anti-Semitic to the dictionary, they decided not to, because he felt it wasn't a necessary thing. In his own words, anti-Semite and its family were then probably very new in English use and not thought likely to be more than passing nonce words, like a one-off. It was just a thing of the time. And hence, they did not receive treatment in a separate article. Probably, if we had to do that post now, we should have to make anti-Semite a main word and add hence anti-Semitic, anti-Semitism. The reason why I'm bringing this is because the way that we perceive reality influences what we do with our institutions. So when somebody wants to go to a meaning-making institution and they want to look for something that they feel they see in society, it ain't there. It ain't there because sometimes people just like, that ain't important to me. Why am I going to put that in there? And then when they put it in there, what are they putting in there? So he acknowledged the fact that, oh yeah, we were wrong. We should have done that. So then let's continue. The word racism was added to the Oxford English Dictionary in 1982. It wasn't in there before. 1982. Racism, this is the definition that they had. prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. It's wild. Let's go. Oxford English Dictionary's first recorded usage of the word racism dates back to 1903. Segregating any class or race of people apart from the rest of the world kills the progress of the segregated people or makes their growth very slow. Association of races and classes is necessary to destroy racism and classism. Sounds solid, right? Does anybody recognize the name? Not a trick question. Does anybody recognize the name? Richard Henry Pratt. Okay, next slide. Oh, right on. This is Mr. Richard Henry Pratt. Some of y'all know this statement by him a little bit more. Kill the Indian in him and save the man. We might know that one. That's Richard Henry Pratt, the person who's credited with the first usage of racism in the Oxford English Dictionary. And when he said it, you know what I'm saying, like contextually, it made sense. But let's look at his life's work. A great general has said that the only good Indian is a dead one, and that high sanction of his destruction has been an enormous factor in promoting Indian massacres. In a sense, I agree with the sentiment, but only in this, that all the Indian there is in the race should be dead. Kill the Indian in him and save the man. Richard Henry Pratt is the founder of the Carlisle Indian Industrial School. This is something that is in a lot of the textbooks and curriculum that you all teach. This is the man. Forced assimilation of Native and Indigenous people. Don't be who you are. Assimilate into white Anglo-Saxon Protestant culture. This is the dude who was talking about racism. It's an interesting historical fact. Some of us have these on our walls in our school district, these types of posters. Who defined it? In a land called the United States of America, the party who creates the social, cultural, institutional, and systemic harm also gets to define and dictate the terms for repairing the harm. Colonial equity. In short, those who create the harm give themselves the power to create the solution. Colonial equity. This is a picture of a courtroom here in Santa Clara County. If we think about the idea of what happens in a courtroom, especially if there's like a criminal proceeding, you have the alleged guilty party, you have somebody else that's bringing charges against that guilty party, jury, judge, so on and so forth. We talked about it earlier. Imagine if the person who did wrong was like, you know what, this is all I'm going to do to pay my debt to society. I caused the harm. Now I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. That don't make sense to us. At least, you know what I'm saying, the way that this thing is supposed to work theoretically. But that's how we do this thing when it comes to equity, inclusion, because it's colonial. It's not the real. It's a performative dance. Let's continue. Just reiterating this so we know. This is part of the reason why we're going to go through this a little bit quicker, because we're going to start wrapping up. The United States has never officially apologized for its treatment of American Indians, Native Americans, Indigenous people. Do we know that? Never an official apology. There was some attempt at an apology in this document, House Resolution 3326. You can read through it, joint resolution, but then Pete, what they say at the bottom. Disclaimer, nothing in this joint resolution authorizes or supports any claim against the United States or serves as a settlement of any claim against the United States. So it's an apology, but we ain't really sorry. It ain't really an apology. You feel me? We just gonna say that we know that a whole bunch of stuff has happened to y'all for a long time, and we were responsible for that, but not really. And we sorry, but we're not really sorry. And this isn't any, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, just take it. The United States has never officially apologized for its treatment of Black people and people of African descent. A resolution was passed in 2009, same type of thing. You can read the bill, same disclaimer. Nothing in this resolution authorizes or supports any claim against the United States or serves as a settlement of any claim against the United States. Same thing. Sorry, but we ain't really sorry. You feel me? It just is what it is. Take it. Continuing. How can equity work be done if the root cause of the problem that has helped create the inequity is never acknowledged? How can we do it if we ain't even dealing with what caused the problem? Like, we're afraid to even. But this has been the historical legacy that has preceded us to this moment. What's the culture of U.S. apology look like? Delay it. Those responsible for the harm dictate the terms of how the apology should be understood and what should or should not be done as a result of the apology. Those who have been harmed have no role in determining what should be done to remedy the harm. No tangible steps are taken to repair the harm in ways that matter to the community harmed. This is what happens. Time and time again. How can you do equity work if this is what precedes it? This culture influences every institution in the United States, no doubt. This culture influences multiple institutions throughout the world. Why? Let's take a look. None of the Western European countries involved in colonization of indigenous lands and forced enslavement of indigenous and African peoples have apologized for their actions. Let's look at some of those responsible. We know who that is? Portuguese, because they were the first. Spanish, they came second. The French, the Dutch East India Company, the Netherlands. Yeah. And then we got a couple of other folks that we could have put up there. None of them have apologized. The United States has not apologized. And they all know that they did wrong. And these folks have impacted the planet. We can go through many places throughout the world. What are the stereotypes of the people here? They're similar. Look at the institutions, similar. When I first did this was in 2022. It was in April of 2022. The statement was 100% correct. It still is, but I had to add this little disclaimer in it. So the Netherlands, on December 19th, 2022, the Prime Minister made an apology on behalf of the Netherlands for its involvement in the institution of forced enslavement. They the first. But it was never an official apology based on the country or the government, but at least the Prime Minister said something. So I want to take you through these next couple of slides and we're going to wrap up. The Haitian Revolution takes place from 1791 to 1804. You have forcibly enslaved people who liberate themselves, emancipate themselves. We celebrated, though, when white Anglo-Saxon Protestants fought against white Anglo-Saxon Protestants in what they call the Revolutionary War to form a country based on freedom, liberty, and justice for all. But we don't celebrate it when Black folks who were forcibly enslaved fought back their oppressors to form a nation based on freedom. One of the first nation in the Western Hemisphere to completely abolish the institution of forced enslavement with no caveat, gone, done away with. But the French said, you have done wrong by us by becoming free. We made a lot of money off of enslaving you. Now that you're free, we still want our money. So instead of giving money to the people who they wrongly, forcibly enslaved, they forced them to pay a debt that totaled more than $21 billion. It took them more than 120 years to pay that off. Is that equity? They ain't the only ones. Let's look. British reparations. So the British did the same thing to former quote unquote slave owners. When they emancipated or were persuaded to no longer engage in forced enslavement, they received money. In the United States, in Washington, D.C., in 1862, folks who were persuaded or for whatever reason stopped forcibly enslaving Black people, they received money. In contrast, the formerly enslaved received nothing if they decided to stay in the United States. The act provided for an immigration incentive of $100, around $2,683 in 2021 if the former enslaved agreed to permanently leave the United States. I'm gonna make a quick point about that. So there was a movement, and for some, to a certain degree, there still is a movement to have Black people repatriated or moved outside of the United States. Liberia, on the African continent, and West Africa comes from that. Also, Sierra Leone comes from that history. Another nation that is in the news right now comes from that history, but it's not part of the Black experience. That is the state of Israel. You had Jewish people, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, parts of the United States. You had governments that were saying, we don't want your kind here. We want you to be resettled somewhere else. I think it's important for those connections to be made. That same thing happened to Black people because they were not wanted where they were at. We'll give you money to go. Same thing. Israel gets a lot of money from the United States. I'm not making a major political point on that, but there's a connection. We don't want you here. Go somewhere else. We'll give you some money to go somewhere else. What you do there is up to you. Hopefully you'll do stuff that still aligns with the political agenda of the United States. You know what I'm saying? And you can see that with all three of those historical examples. But we understand trying to do right, but they applied the concept incorrectly. So is there an example of when doing right actually fit an oppressed community? Yeah. The German example. Holocaust. Germany, right away. What we did was wrong. We got to repair the harm. So they did that. Chancellor Konrad Adenauer, September 27th, 1951. What we did was wrong. We have to repair the harm, and we will. They committed themselves to do that. Multiple statements, and then action taken. Agreements made. Laws changed to say never again. That's equity. We can debate whether or not they didn't go far enough, but at least they did something. All these other examples, nothing was done. So then what can we learn from Germany in that example? Accountability, commitment to repair harm, commitment to change, acted to repair harm and change. And the fifth point, the community that was impacted helped guide the repair effort. So when we're talking about radical equity, it is not a negotiation. The people who are affected need to guide what is done in order for it to become equitable. When we're doing that, we're talking about radical equity. So I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. So if y'all want access to these slides, there's a lot, you know what I'm saying? Like, look at this. We's about to go here on them, like how we do radical equity when we look at the land that was taken away from Native and Indigenous people. Colonial equity is, you want some casinos? Or you can be on this land until we find some resources on it that we want, and y'all gonna have to go again. That's colonial equity. But radical equity is a different conversation. Or we still gonna run some pipelines through your land. Yeah, and if you try to resist that, we're gonna send some troops and some police and whatever. That's colonial equity. All treaties broken. All treaties made were broken. So what would radical equity look like in that regard? You know, I'll let y'all think through that one. Dred Scott case, you have Chief Justice Marshall saying, the Black man has no rights that the white man is bound to respect. What does radical equity look like for that? What does radical equity look like for, at the beginning of the Civil War in 1861, more than 4 million Black people, 90% of the Black population of the United States was forcibly enslaved. For generations, lives stolen, livelihood stolen, families broken up. You think you don't owe people? But enslavers, they get money back. But you don't owe the people who you stole their lives from. For real? 13th Amendment, setting up slavery by another name, except as a punishment for a crime where the party shall be duly convicted. What's radical equity look like for that? We got jails and prisons, multi-billion-dollar industries to this day. What does radical equity look like for that? Juneteenth, read this. Black folks, y'all now gonna be employers to the people who were your enslavers. You can't go nowhere. You will not be supported. For real? This is part of the history of Juneteenth, you know what I'm saying? We celebrate that and all that because Black folks, you know what I'm saying, learned that they were free. They didn't need to be told by white people that they were free. But that's a deeper conversation. We can go into that another time. But for real, when we start applying this idea of radical equity, it gets deep. Separate but equal, it gets deep. How do we apply it here? With this type of history, more than 4,000 people lynched and nothing done? Nobody held accountable for this? There's multiple examples of stuff like this, not just Tulsa burned. What do we do? This is part of it. And then when we get into what we're talking about, schools. We go from anti-literacy laws. Multiple states said Black people cannot learn. We're going to use our institutional power to make sure that they can't learn. Segregated schools. Y'all might recognize this, Little Rock 9, Ruby Bridges, that whole experience. And then this is 2023 data. English language arts scores, math scores. We owe. But colonial equity is, we gonna only do so much. Radical equity, we really gonna be about it. 21st century educators, we didn't inherit. We didn't create it. We inherited. It's on us to not make these mistakes. What can we do? Redefine the language of education, redefine the language of curriculum. Disenfranchised communities need to lead the process. Create institutions for the community to lead the process. Contract with educational leaders who represent these communities to implement the cultural and systemic changes. I told you, I am here. And not just me, there's a whole bunch of other folks who are here that get it, who care about it, who want to work and want to be a part of this change, which needs to happen because radical equity is necessary. I'll come back to this if y'all want to take a picture of it. Let's go to the next one. Redesign curriculum. Train teachers and support them in the implementation of teaching strategies that better serve students of color. Eliminate all systems and institutions in schools that are rooted in the problematic racist history of U.S. schools. One of those is having police on campuses. That's real. That's part of this racist history. Systematically and sustainably provide the supports that students who have been victimized by our systems of education need. Commitment to systemic and institutional change, dedicated money, resources, and personnel to make this happen every day, every year. This support must be driven by the community. I appreciate that. Clap that up for real, because this is stuff that can be done right now. Grants, state funding, LCAP, whatever y'all got, there's money that can be set aside in order to do this work properly. But you have to have the right people in there. If not, it's just words on paper, or the words ain't even gonna end up on paper, fam. Which we see, because that is what colonial equity is about. So look, I told y'all, I want to give you an example that comes from here. An example of radical equity. I started to talk about this, and this is the last piece that we'll have. This is from Oak Grove School District, not far from here. I told you I was working with them. I've been working with them for about 3.5 years. They asked me to collect the experience of Black students because of the increase in the use of racially offensive and insensitive language. That's what they asked. So we did that. This was the process. So with the Black program, we have a session once a month, about an 1.5-hour session, sometimes 2 hours. So we're in there talking. It's a safe space for the students. They love when I pull up. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, Tyson's coming. Let's go. Even they come through. That's important. They gonna come to school on the days that I'm there. When I'm not there, I don't have no control over that. But when they know I'm pulling up, they gonna be there and they gonna be attentive, right? So we dedicated at least 3 of those monthly sessions to that. We're gonna talk. What's up? We doing this, we're hearing this. They calling us monkey, they calling us jigaboo, they calling us jungle bunnies, they calling us N-word all the time. They coming up and asking us, can we get the N-word pass? I had somebody who, I hope you don't mind, I'm gonna use this as an, okay, yeah. So it's not disrespectful to anybody. So this is a picture of me, right? So I had a student who told me this. He said, a student came in front of him, balled up a piece of paper, threw it on the ground and said, pick that cotton from me. Another kid said, you had kids who would walk behind a group of Black students, and this is what they would do. Like they whipping them. I'm hearing this from the students in all the different schools, right? So I'm like, do y'all give me permission to take this to your school leadership and your district leadership? Yes, cool. So this is what they saying. What y'all gonna do? What you gonna do about this? We're gonna do something. We're gonna do something. We're gonna do something. All right. They said, we want to hear from the students. So then we had another one of our Black program sessions where district personnel came in, sat down, and listened to the students. Remember, I told y'all the name, Building Leaders and Activists with Collective Knowledge. So I prepared the students. I said, y'all have an opportunity to speak to people who are decision makers. Y'all are decision makers as well, because y'all got power. You feel me? But you have an opportunity to use your power to talk to these people to create change that's going to impact multiple folks. And now it's impacting all of y'all, because wait till you hear what happened. So they did that. They came in, spoke beautifully, powerfully, 12 and 13-year-old kids. This is what's happening. This is what's wrong. This is what needs to change. This is what it should look like. We need your support. A whole bunch of the adults, they hear this stuff and nobody does nothing. They did what they had to do. So then after that, I'm with the district. I'm with the assistant superintendent. I'm with the school site principals. What are y'all going to do? If you don't know what to do, I know what to do. My team, we do this all the time. We can help you create some policy. We can help you create some community agreement. Whatever you need, let's go. Okay, we think we got it. All right. You know I'm here. I'm going to check in. What'd y'all do next month? Have y'all put something together? Not yet. We still working on it. Okay. I'm going to check back in. What's up? Did y'all do something over the summer? They come to the ABIN, a Black Education Network, Stanford Summer Institute. We talking the same thing there. That was in June. What's up? Where y'all at? We still working on it. At the start of the 2023-2024 school year, they hadn't notified me yet. I found out this is what they implemented. So they did this at every single middle school. They created a hate speech behavior contract. Every single student at the middle schools had to sign it. We ain't gonna read through the whole thing. I'm gonna just take y'all to this bottom part right here. It says, it is the intent of this contract to eliminate a hostile environment on school grounds that impairs the access of pupils to equal education opportunity due to the use of derogatory words and slurs expressed publicly, either verbally in writing or through images and social media. This expectation and consequences have been communicated through advisory, morning announcements, and in the monthly newsletter, and will continue to be reiterated through the school year. Any student having been witnessed by staff, but it should be any student and staff, so we're talking to them about that. This needs to be expanded. But any student having been witnessed by staff and or other students using hate speech at school or through social media will result in loss of school activities and immediate disciplinary action up to and including suspension and or expulsion from Burnell Intermediate School. It's the same for all those schools. This is an example of radical equity. For those of you who might have questions, how did they do it? They based it on the California Ed Code. They based it on school board policy, and they based it on other local policy that they have in their school. That's what the laws are there. We said that there's laws on the paper. Are we implementing them? So through our partnership, and this is what the assistant superintendent told me, her name is Amy Bowles. She said, we heard what the students said in the Black program last year, and we knew that we needed to do something. This is what we did. And we know that it's not perfect. We want to keep checking in with the students all throughout the school year to see how it's working. So the first session that I had with them, I was like, hey, do y'all know why y'all signed that contract? No, I said, that came from the Black program. They did this because of what y'all did last school year. Y'all need to be proud of yourselves. Y'all used the power that you have as young people to create change. They were 75 students. They impacted 2,300 students throughout the entire district. And not just that, multiple districts here that we work with now, they have this same contract and they're drafting their own in order to implement that in those districts. Dominoes are falling because people are stepping up saying, we can do something. So when they found out, they was like, well, for real, we did that. We did that. Yes, y'all did that. And then I'm like, how is it working? It's better than what it was last year. We not hearing the same stuff like we were. We still hear some stuff, but it's not as bad as it was last year. It's definitely different. It's having an impact, y'all. It can be done. So I gave y'all that QR code. I think I got it back right here. When you go to this, there's a whole bunch of resources. One of the resources is this document. You'll see OGSD policy. Click it, look at it, take it to your people. Y'all need to do this type of stuff because it was created specifically to impact Black students, but it protects all students. And this is also the historical legacy. When Black folks, at least in this country, make moves, it has an impact on other communities, oftentimes a positive impact on other communities. That's why we build in leaders and activists with collective knowledge. So if y'all about this radical equity movement, let's do it, y'all. I'm here. My contact information was up there. Let's talk, let's build, let's be about this work. Because replicating that colonial equity model does not work. It causes more harm and more problems. So I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Thank you for rocking with your boy. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm gonna stop there, but we got more to do. We're gonna talk more. Thank you.